Hello again, Struckweb. Today I'm bringing you another build video for Warhammer Chaosbane, and this one is for the Mage Elontir, who is a high elf. And this is kind of version 2.0 of my build from December that was called Arcane Azyre Phantom or something like that. I decided to call this one the Azyre Phantom 2.0 because I made two versions, one where we are using the Arcane Secrets and one where we are replacing that with a counter attack based damage setup. So we're not doing damage from counter attack, but we're getting a bonus damage from the passive called couter-spell, which gives you X% damage based on how much counter attack damage your items that you're wearing have. So keep in mind, when I was playing with the counter attack setup, I only had 3000 counter attack damage from my items built in, not from the blessings, which means that I could get roughly around another 10,000 damage, because I think from items now with the update from the forges you can get roughly between 12 and 13,000 counter attack damage just from items built-in properties, excluding the 2,500 you can get for each piece, which is another 25,000. So I got like 67% damage from the passive, and I think this can go to close to 100. You're seeing footage now with me playing with the regular setup, and remember to always be careful around barrels like this one.
Oh! Oh, beautiful!
If you're not careful, well, top cake barrel that moments can happen. So throughout this video you would be seeing me playing both the counter-spell version and the Arcane Secrets version, and of course you would be able to tell the difference immediately by the damage numbers. If it goes in the 20 million plus, then it's definitely me using Arcane Secrets. If it doesn't, then it's me using the under-geared counter-spell version. I still think the Arcane Secrets would, even with maxed out counter-attack damage on the counter-spell version, would be stronger, but hey, if you want to experiment, if you want the weird build, well, I've got you covered with the weird build, so you can use that counter-spell setup and change all your blessings to counter attack damage and HP. So let's move on to the skills. Again, I would show you two versions, so hope you like it. The skill set I've picked for this build has two variations. First I'm gonna show you the weird build variation, the one that uses counter-spell mastered, which was a rework I did a couple of days ago while streaming. Just wanted to experiment, see how it would work, and it does work well only if you have a lot of counter attack damage in the gear from blessings and the gear itself. Yeah, more about that in the gear section, but I wanna show you just this piece of equipment that has 1565 counterattack damage. Why I decided to do a counterattack based setup now is because with the release of the latest big update, the Forges update, they kind of doubled the counterattack, maybe on all the pieces we can get, except I think weapons. I think weapons don't have double the counterattack, but rings and armors and necklaces do have kind of double the counterattack damage base. The blessings can still give you up to 2500 per piece, so keep in mind when recording footage for this I did not have my counterattack damage very high because I was using legacy pieces with no counterattack damage on them, or with very low amounts like 7, 6, 800 compared to 1500 that you saw on the previous piece that I showed you. So let's go through all the skills. Phantom Blade Heroic, Breath of Fire, basic version, Etheric Storm Mastered, Blinding White Mastered, Step Between Worlds Superior, Etheric Vortex Superior are the active. Of course, Heroic Arcane Binding, main source of damage. Then Hero of the Desert for some mixed bag of goodies. Mostly I take it for the damage reduction stacking. Then we've got counter-spell mastered, as I said, then padded armor for up to 40% counter attack, not counter attack but damage reduction, and then this another 15% damage reduction, and then here we have duelist chain reaction for up to 400% crit damage when we get all 4 stacks, and it shouldn't be difficult since we have 1, 2, 3 spells with cooldown which can trigger the chain reaction, so we should be good for that. Now I think I shouldn't say much about why I've picked everything. Like Phantom Blade Heroic is from Blade of Azyre. This is again for the damage reduction, and it's huge damage. It's the main source of damage. This combined with this is just what makes this build tick. This one I like using the Superior because it has damage reduction and it also has some cooldown time reduction now, which is a new thing from the Forges update. I think the rest is pretty much straightforward. Now next you would see the secondary, in which would be the more standard setup, similar to my Tomb King's version of the build, with the slight rework in the padded armor. So as you can see, the only change in the active and passive skills when going for the non-counter attack based setup is, instead of counter-spell mastered, we're using Arcane Secrets mastered. It's not that big of a difference on paper here, but it's completely different way of setting it up when it comes to gear blessings and the god skills. So you would see in the god skills section again 2 setups, one with the counter spell god skill combinations, and then the more standard one with the Arcane Secrets and not using counter attack in the blessings. And more information about the gear and the blessings in the segment about those. So I hope this is clear. Next I'm gonna start showing you the god skills. Here is the god skills setup for the first version, the one with counter spell damage, which is the weird build version. You can see I've decided to go all the way for this 35 crit damage, taking this 35 and bunch of other crit damage on the way, and then I've spent 3 points here to get this 35 and this 35 crit damage, and we're taking counterspell mastered on the way there. You can see right now I've got 63%, but I think this can go up to 90% with enough counter attack on items, maybe even 100, who knows. I just need to farm more items to be able to tell you how much this would be with min-maxed counter attack damage on items. So on the regular, on the standard god skill 3, we are taking Fortress of Willpower Superior. We're taking Etheric Storm Mastered, and I don't think we need this or this. So it's up to you how to spend those other 2 points. There's a bunch of other things you can do with those 2 points, like you can go for this one, but I don't think you really need it. You don't need energy. You can go here if you want that. Again, you don't need energy. If we had 1 more point, we would take that extra damage. Alternatively, there's options to maybe get some cooldown reduction, but again, the damage reduction is here, the cooldown reduction is here, so not enough skill points to do anything too important. So those 2 points I'm gonna leave up to you guys to decide how you prefer to spend them. They're a little bit of extra flavor, so experiment and let me know what you prefer. I hope everything is clear in this regard. Now let's show you the other setup, the more standard setup, and see whether you like that better than this one. So here are the second set of god skills, and mind you, this one does not use the second god skill tree, only the default one. So even if a player doesn't own the god skills DLC, they would be able to use this setup the way I've combined the things. So first of all, we're going all the way here to Arcane Secrets Mastered, then one more point for 35% crit damage, then 3 points here for 35 and then another 40 crit damage for the price of 5 HP with 2 damage on the way. We're stopping here for Etheric Storm Mastered, and we're taking on the way to it Fortress of Willpower Superior for damage reduction. Then what we've got here is 4% cooldown reduction on the way to 10% health for the price of energy. Energy is not a problem for us because we're using mostly energy generation skill to do damage anyways. And here the remaining 1 point I decided to spend on this 4% champion damage reduction. I think it's a good deal for a single point, which was just there floating, hanging without us being able to spend it anywhere. So I hope this is clear, and let me know which version you enjoy. Of course, if you have a lot of counterattack damage in your items, it might be worth testing the other version. If you don't, I would suggest stick to this one. You're gonna get more damage out of it, and definitely this would probably be the more meta setup for anyone to use, and it's not that heavily dependent on items with counterattack damage wrote on them. Now next off would be the god skills. Now next off would be me showing you the gear segment, and a little bit of information about the blessings would be in that segment as well. So here we are at the gear segment of the build video, and for this I decided to go for the Dragon Tamer set, and Blade of Azyre, Relentless Sentinel, Phase Shift Amulet, and here's the rings. You don't have to use exactly the same rings as me, so I think any ring would be fine. Like damage reduction rings would be fine, like the dragon ring if you have a good one. Where was it? This one. Completely viable option. If you want damage, you might want to go for Ring of Cain's Fury, but for this ring keep in mind you have to now pick up orbs, so it's not as viable as it used to be. You might want to get Ring of Denial, but you're losing damage. If you're fine with losing that damage, you're getting a lot of toughness, a lot of damage reduction and HP for it. Another option would be to get Old Ring of Dexterity. I think this is the only build where Ring of Dexterity really could make a difference, because the main damage dealing skill is Phantom Blade Heroic, so Ring of Dexterity you can obtain by doing invasions from this node. Keep in mind, as I always suggest, if you're getting invasion rings, for example, don't click on the ring immediately. For example, you're doing rank 10. You clear it all the way to here, you complete this map, and then this is available for pickup. What you do is you go back to rank 1, and on rank 1 all of those nodes up to here, including this one that you've completed, would already be unlocked. You collect the ring on rank 1, you go back to rank 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then finally you collect it on 10. That way you're collecting 10 rings instead of just one. If you were to, for example, collect this ring on rank 10, you won't be able to go back to ranks 1 through 9 and collect a ring for each of those. The way it works is, once you complete a node on one rank, it gets completed on all ranks underneath it. So just a warning here when you're farming for Ring of Dexterity if you want to use it in the build. You can see I'm using Crystalline Ring because I've got a good rolled one, and I'm using Ring of Hotek. Ring of Hotek probably is not the most useful, but it's nice, a little bit of extra health regeneration, and Crystalline Ring is also quite nice, extra healing increased and extra maximum HP. Again, a lot of things would be useful. Even Ring of Resonance might be useful, another one from Invasions, whereas the Ring of Resonance is actually here, down at the bottom. That's Ring of Resonance. So decide for yourself which ring you wanna use. Anything is fine. I would just suggest even Ring of Radiance is okay, but you're not really that dependent on cooldowns. Yeah, it's nice to be able to spam this more often. The other stuff are pretty low on the cooldowns. 8 seconds, 3 seconds, 6 seconds. Of course, I've got cooldown reduction here and cooldown reduction here, but no cooldown reduction on the amulet, and I don't have cooldown reduction on the rings. It's not that big of a priority to have cooldown for this build. So what stats would you want to prioritize? Of course, on the helmet always get cooldown reduction, even though it's not a priority for this build. Helmet is the only item where you can get cooldown reduction. So get cooldown reduction on the helmet and then prioritize health, and after that armor. You don't care about cost reduction, you don't care about wood quality. Counter-attack damage you only care about when you're going for the counter-attack setup, but might as well experiment with both, so try to get counter-attack. Energy you don't need that much, not for this build where we're doing the damage to the enemies with the energy generation skill. The same goes for the armor, although armor for the chest and armor for the legs can get health generation, so you might want to get that if you can. It's not that big of a priority. And resistance to damage over time is also another stat for all pieces of armor that you might wanna get, and not just for the armor. But on armor you're not sacrificing damage to get it, so it's definitely worth going for resistance to damage over time, especially if you're planning on doing invasions. Then we're moving on to the amulet. Phase shift amulet must have this one, I think. On this class it gives you damage reduction, and its nearby enemies take more damage, which is nice. So on other classes, some of them, like 2 of the classes, give you extra damage to far away enemies, but you're taking more damage. So thankfully Elontir has this version of the amulet. So what you want again is crit chance, you want damage, flat damage, you want probably life drain, health drain, it's a new stat which is very great for any build. Crit damage and armor piercing are okay. Armor and HP are also okay. And of course, as I said, if you're going for the counter-attack version, definitely try and get counter-attack. You can get up to around 1000 on a ring now with the new modifiers, whereas before it was like 400 something maximum, so kind of doubled, even more than doubled there. Which brings us again, the same stats apply to rings. What I said about amulet, the exact same rules apply about rings. Cooldown again, don't prioritize it, not for this build at least. So we're moving on to the weapons. As I said, I prefer Blade of Azyre, it's amazing, and we want Phantom Blade to be as strong as we can get it, and Blade of Azyre is the one thing for this. You can see this one is 1273, but this is a legacy item, so this one I think can now get to around 2200, 2500 counter-attack damage. I don't think we can get counter-attack damage on the staff. And on the Blade of Azyre you would want cooldown reduction is okay. I mean, you don't have to prioritize it, but it's okay because it's very high on the Blade of Azyre, so I would get it at least on the blade. You want flat damage though, you want crit damage, you want maximum HP, and armor piercing is also nice. Health drain is also a nice stat, so if you can sacrifice something for it, get it. If you're not going for a counter-attack setup, definitely get the same one I've got, but instead of counter-attack damage, get the health drain on its stead for the regular setup. Otherwise, maybe sacrifice the armor piercing or just don't get health drain. Then we're moving on to the scepter, and Relentless Sentinel is the one I would suggest. Why don't I get a focusing crystal? I don't think the damage is worth it. Why I don't get the Scepter Vice? It really is not worth it, but of course if you have a good road Scepter Vice, a green Scepter Vice, or a green focusing crystal, or anything else, such as what was its name, this thing, Phoenix Herald, of course get it until you get a good road Relentless Sentinel. But the Relentless Sentinel is where we get that extra 100% damage, 20% damage reduction, 10% crit chance, so definitely worth it, and it's stacking up with our other sources of damage and damage reduction, and the crit chance is also nice. and you can just stay in one place, you can stay static, and it's amazing to just face tank shit with this. So the stats you would want to look out for, you can skip the cooldown reduction here if you can't get it, but definitely get crit chance, get crit damage, and get damage. I don't think we can get crit chance on the sword if I'm not mistaken. I think that's how it was. Yeah, you can't get crit chance here, but you can get crit chance here, so definitely try and get crit chance on this one. Crit damage, flat damage, those three should be the biggest priorities. Then HP is good to have, but if you don't have it, it's fine. And again, armor piercing and health drain would be amazing. So here, instead of wood quality, I would probably want to have HP, and instead of armor piercing, I would maybe prefer to have a little bit of health drain. But even if I don't, that's fine. Even the armor piercing is not a bad stat. The bracers is the only piece of equipment where you can get damage and crit damage on an armor piece. So you can't get it on helmet, chest, legs or boots. So get it here, get flat damage, and if you can get crit damage, it's a good source of extra little damage from an armor piece. After that, prioritize HP and prioritize armor, and if you're going for the counterattack version, get that as well. Of course, on any piece where you can get health drain if it's possible to roll on it, but those are the major things: the damage stats, the HP. Those are the three things: crit damage, flat damage, HP, and then the fourth priority would be for armor. After that, the rest is up to you. Resistance to damage over time, counterattack damage, whatever you need, whatever you can get. And that kind of sums it up, I guess, for the items. Again, two different setups are shown in this build video, so it's actually two variations of the same build. Decide what you like more and get items to synergize well with it. So next off, I will show you quickly about the blessing. The blessings that I like to use are red and green for the damage version, the one that's not using counterattack damage, which would be, if you want a balanced version, that's it. This gives you up to 4000 damage and up to 6000 HP. If you want more damage, you go for red and 2 green, which is up to 4480 damage, so it's 420 more damage, 420 AO, and then 4000 maximum health. And now if you want to get the one with more HP and less damage, you do the opposite. You do 4 green and 4 red, which is up to 3640, which is 420 less than the balanced version, and up to 8000 HP. So you see, we have a version with 4000 HP but max damage, 6000 HP balanced damage, and 8000 HP least damage, depending on what we put. So this is the one. I'm kind of using right now 5 with the balanced version and 5 with the damage version. So I've got 4 of this one, and I've got 5 of this one, and I've got 5 of this one. So that's kind of what I'm running right now. Kind of a balanced version between the balance and the damage oriented. And then let's show you the blessings for the counterattack. I strongly suggest keeping it like this: 4 green, 2 blue, linked, and with the God token. This gives you up to 8000 HP, up to 2500 counterattack damage, and up to 620 armor. This kind of is it. I don't suggest switching it for more armor, less HP, but it is possible. Like the same way it goes for the damage, more blue would give you more armor, less HP. But I would suggest just going for the more HP, because especially if you're using a ring that gives you HP bonuses, or maybe 2 of them, you would really want to be sticking to having more HP. Especially with health drain, that's another thing that would synergize well with more HP. So that's it for the blessings and for the gear. Next, we'll leave you with a little bit more gameplay. I'm gonna be showing footage from both versions, both builds, both variations, so hope you like it. So here we are with a little bit of extra gameplay. I've actually included a bit more than normally, because there's two versions of the build as we already know. So first I'm gonna show you a little bit of counter-spell footage. You can see playing the build is the same as playing my build from December if you've somehow ended up watching it. So you're focusing on using your melee skill for the damage, and in the meantime you're making sure that this dome, which you can move with spacebar or whatever you've bound your archetype skill to, you're focusing on making sure the dome is where the enemies are. It's gonna give you damage reduction, it's gonna make them take more damage, and it's gonna give you movement speed while you're moving around the map inside the dome. Also, when you need extra damage boost, you can use the god skill with the storms that makes you do extra damage, so it's good. It also does some damage on the side as well, so it's pretty decent. And you're using Blinding Light to get yourself some extra healing and to repel enemies and do a little bit of extra damage, so it's not so bad. And then you're teleporting when needed, and Breath of Fire, ignore it. You can use any other energy draining skill there if you want. And now let's show you a little bit of split screen. Let me know, by the way, if you want in the comments what you think about this presentation. I'm experimenting with it, this split screen, where I'm showing you counterspell at the top and Arcane Secrets at the bottom corners. So I've tried to cut it in such a way that what's lost is not important. Hopefully that's fine. So as you can see, of course, as I said and mentioned, I didn't have enough counter-attack damage on my counter spell setup, so maybe later on when I do find the equipment needed, then I would revisit this and see how much more damage it can do. It's not so bad, it's still doing Chaos 9, as you can see, but the damage is kind of half of what my Arcane Secrets has right now. Due to it requiring less to do more. So if you want the meta version of the build, of course Arcane Secrets is the one that's fastest to farm for. I can't tell you whether counterspell would do more damage, but I believe it's not gonna do more damage overall. So that's kind of how it is. Again, just keep teleporting to avoid damage when needed, but try to stay in place. So you can proc, as you can see just now what procced underneath my feet, that blue big circle. You can proc the offhand, the scepter. Once that procs, we do more damage, we have more damage reduction. You can just stay in one place and soak up the damage, face tank shit. And in some cases, rare cases, we would really need to go out of a place, because there was gonna be like 3, 4, 5 different pools of blood or poison or whatever other shit the enemies can spam in our feet, and then of course you would want to bail out. But ideally you would be standing in one place to stack the damage reduction from the melee skill, from the scepter, from the dome, and from our passives and so on. Definitely a fun build, I really enjoy it. It's so nice to play it. And let me know what you think, if you have a different setup or if you've tested both versions, if you have the equipment for counter-attack damage and have tested it. Let me know what your results are, what your damage numbers are. It's one of my favorite builds, regardless whether it's the Arcane setup or the other one. So I strongly suggest any Mage player who doesn't mind being in there where the damage is to test it. If you want to see builds for other classes and other sets on this class, please let me know what you are really looking for, because I'm planning on releasing some, but I can prioritize what my viewers need. So if you need help, hints, tips how to play this build or any of my other builds or any build in general on any character, feel free to hop over to my Twitch or YouTube channel. You can live chat with me, you can leave me a comment and I can reply to that comment when I'm available. You can also find me on my Discord server, link in the description for that, and you can always chat with me over there if you need some help with anything. If you enjoyed this video, you could subscribe to my channel to get notified for more content updates for games like Chaosbane, Torchlight 3, Wolves and Words of Mayhem, or other similar isometric footers, or as well sometimes for Borderlands 3 content. Thanks for watching the video, folks. Keep it cool. Until next time, and goodbye.